former Deputy Assistant Secretary at the US Department of Homeland Security. He's also a Senior Fellow at the Scowcroft Center for Strategy and Security's Forward Defense Practice at the Atlantic Council. He joins us now from Washington. Welcome back to the program, Thomas. This is the first time that this particular clause of the US Constitution has been used to disqualify a presidential candidate. What impact will this have on the presidential race, do you think?
Well, under the U.S. system, states are allowed to determine rules for their own election. And in this case, the Supreme Court of the state of Colorado has ruled that Colorado law requires that someone who is ineligible to be on the ballot must not be allowed to run. And under the federal Constitution, as you said, anyone who is engaged in an insurrection having previously sworn an oath as an officer of the United States cannot now run for office again. This will undoubtedly be appealed by President Trump to the U.S. Supreme Court. And so the Supreme Court has until January 4th to issue its opinion on whether the Colorado Supreme Court has correctly interpreted the U.S. Constitution's insurrection ban.
And if this appeal does go to the US Supreme Court, given that the top court is currently majority conservative, what's the likelihood that the justices will perhaps overturn the Colorado ruling?
Well, the Colorado Supreme Court's ruling is over 100 pages of very detailed and well-reasoned legal arguments. What I think it will come down to are what under U.S. law we call technicalities. For example, is the President of the United States an officer of the United States? And on such technicalities, constitutional decisions often depend. And so this Supreme Court could go either way. And I don't think we're going to be able to predict the outcome until we see how the judges react. But they will have to act very quickly because if this Supreme Court decision is not issued by January 4th, then the Colorado Secretary of State who decides who goes on the ballot will be required to remove President Trump's name as the ballots are printed. At the same time, this will undoubtedly be used by President Trump to inflame his supporters. But as I've said many times here on TRT, almost every American has made up his or her mind about Donald Trump. This will actually change very few opinions. The supporters of President Trump will still be his supporters. The opponents will still be his opponents. But whether he stays on the ballot in a state like Colorado obviously will have important implications for the 2024 presidential election.
We also know that Donald Trump is mired in a number of legal actions against him, not just similar actions to what we've seen in Colorado. He has got a lot of obstacles right now, doesn't he, in terms of securing his place for re-election?
You're absolutely right. There are no less than 4 criminal cases and other civil cases that he is required to defend against. We could see him trying to campaign while sitting at a defendant's table in court during much of 2024. But for the Republican Party, their nomination will be, in all likelihood, settled by early March, late March. And at that point, few, if any, of the trials will have reached a conclusion. It will then be up to voters in the general election to decide whether to vote for someone who is under intensive criminal scrutiny or whether to vote for his opponent, who will undoubtedly be current President Joe Biden.
Okay, Thomas Warrick, we'll leave it there for now. Thanks so much, as always, for sharing your thoughts with us.